good tradition of love and hate. Staying by the fireside, there's a good tradition of love and hate. Staying by the fireside, now the rain may fall, your father's calling you, you still feel safe inside. Although your mom's too proud, your brother's ignoring you.
Tanita Tikaram is a singer-songwriter who was living in England, to be precise, Basingstoke, when she started her musical career in 1988 at the age of 19. To say that she is English, though, is a bit of a stretch because she has a Malaysian mother and a Fijian father, and she was born and grew up in Germany. But somehow they ended up in Basingstoke. Her first album, Ancient Heart, was a big success in the UK and Europe, and she never managed to rekindle the same success through her subsequent 9 to 10 albums, depending on how you count the compilation album, To Drink the Rainbow. Hi, my name's Dan, and this is a review of the album Ancient Heart by Tanita Tikaram, which was released in 1988 and was her first album. So most of the reviews on my channel are, I'm reviewing my way through a list of the 3,000 best albums of all time, according to Acclaimed Music, who've made an amalgamated list from lots of critics' lists. It's a bit like Metacritic, but going back to the whole history of albums. Occasionally, though, I step off that list. One of the reasons for doing that is to review albums that I think should be on the list and aren't. I call those criminally missing. Another one is to review albums that I think that not many people will have heard of, and I call those hidden gems. And my third category is in the middle between those two. They're not really obscure albums, but they're not really well-known albums either. They're somewhere in the middle. I call those Dan's picks, and this is one of those. So this album's quite a big deal when it came out, particularly among my circle of friends. I became quite a fan of hers, and I've got 4 or 5 of her albums in total. She kind of burst into public music life. She kept dropping up on radio and television, and she was unusual enough to be interesting. It's fair to say that this success was obviously somewhat due to her songwriting, but enhanced somewhat with smart production on the album from Peter Van Hook and Rod Argent, and also some very competent instrumentalists to complement her acoustic guitar and her singing. So there's a variety of real instruments here with things like brass and cello and violin thrown in. Very little that seems electric. Kind of maybe there's, I would not call it folk, but maybe some people would say it's folk adjacent in that it uses real instruments. It's got an acoustic guitar. We've got quite a lot of violin, particularly. There is some gentle organ at times, which is about as far as we get into electronics. In my mind, it really fits into a certain mold that was around in the 80s that I call the 80s AOR album-oriented rock. So people like Dire Straits and Sting. And a lot of people were going in this kind of clean and occasionally somewhat stripped back feel at the time. Is measured and it's got this clean feel, as I said, but it's got a variety of different feels. The playing is at times very sensitive. It's nicely done. So musically, I found this album really engaging. Her voice is quite low and breathy. It's quite distinctive. There's a nice clarity to it. And there's a little catch in her voice that throws her off tune occasionally, but it's not in a bad way. It's in a way that just kind of brings in a little bit of vulnerability. In a way, I'd say that, if you took two completely different voices, Alison Moyet, who's known for having a low voice, and Sade being known for having a breathy voice, it's somewhere between those two. Songwriting. Actually, I think that's where this is particularly interesting as an album. And that's a good thing when you got stuff that's singer-songwriter. She's about as cryptic as you can get. So you can get a vague feel for what her songs might be about, but not totally. There's at least one on here that I know because I heard an interview with her back in the day, which is which one is it on the album? It's Poor Cow. It's probably my favourite track on the album as well. So I kind of picked up that this is about um, the way young boys view young girls. Well, young, I mean kind of teenage. But generally, it's quite cryptic and vague. But you do get the idea that she knows what it's about, that it's not just a random selection of terms. It's just bleak references to things or personal references to things. She's got an interesting turn of phrase as well. So she does put things together in nice ways. You can kind of almost work out what that might mean. So the song "Twisting My Sobriety," you kind of maybe get a bit of an inclination of what that might be. But the end result manages to be quite evocative, and actually is one of those things where different people will put their own interpretations onto it, which is a thing that some music does, which can be quite powerful. Um, but generally, I'd say it manages to convey feeling without so much meaning, which is a fairly neat trick. So the end result is musically strong, lyrically enigmatic. I like it. I um, I have a list of these step off albums that I'm likely to review, and I choose them randomly. When I this one came up, I realised that I haven't listened to it for a few years. As I listened to it, I was surprised at how well I remembered it and how many of the words I could still remember. So I must have played it a lot at the time, back in the day, as it were, and over a few years after that. So I really like it. I would commend it to you if that sounds like it might be interesting to you. You may have come across Tanita Tikaram. She was successful in the UK and in Europe, particularly, but not particularly in the US, I don't think. So, to US viewers, if this sounds interesting, have a dig in and look at some Tanita Tikaram. And if you do know it, or if you have your first listen, I'd love to know what you think. So please do share that with me by leaving a comment. But that's it from me for now.
All good children need traveling shoes. Drive your problems from here. All good people read good books. Now your conscience is clear. I hear you talk.